JonBenet's family now hoping that, plus renewed public interest and new DNA technology, might finally help close this case.
The JonBenet Ramsey case has shocked America for almost 30 years, leaving behind many secrets, lies, and wild ideas. A 6-year-old girl found dead in her own home, a strange ransom note, and a perfect family image that quickly broke apart. This was no normal crime. While everyone else was pointing fingers and fighting at dinner tables, the real truth was hidden in plain sight, obscured by police errors and loud media stories. Now, fresh, startling evidence has finally surfaced, ready to unravel this case and reveal a far more sinister side to it than we ever imagined. Is this the conclusion that everyone has been waiting for? Prepare yourself, because what we're going to reveal could make you shiver. The mystery of JonBenet Ramsey is finally solved. It seemed for a very long time that JonBenet Ramsey's case would never be resolved. Everyone seemed to be guessing and arguing, and the police seemed to be stuck, going around in circles. Many pondered who could harm a young girl in such a horrible way. The years passed by, and the case stayed cold. But everything started to change because of new technology. This new technology was something that people didn't have back in the 90s. When JonBenet was assassinated in 1996, DNA science was not as advanced as it is today. Back then, the police collected small pieces of DNA from her clothes and under her fingernails. They knew it belonged to some unknown man, but they didn't know who it was. The DNA was very tiny, and the tests back then needed more DNA to be really clear and strong. As a result, it provided the police with very little information, which was very annoying. Science improved steadily over the years. Experts and scientists discovered methods to extract more information from smaller DNA fragments. Genetic genealogy was one particularly significant change. This method involves finding people through family trees and DNA samples that people submit to websites in order to find their background. When people want to learn about where their ancestors came from, they sometimes send their DNA to companies. Even if a criminal never sends in his DNA, his family members might do it. By looking at the family member's DNA, investigators can start putting together a big puzzle. They can figure out which family a person might belong to and then start looking closer and closer until they find the right person. In 2024, the police ultimately made the decision to attempt this in the case of JonBenet. They collaborated with Parabon Nanolabs, a unique business. This business has solved other cold cases and is skilled at using DNA to determine family ties. Using cutting-edge technology, the police produced a new and improved DNA profile, which they then posted to a DNA website that is open to the public. They found some distant relatives, but they didn't immediately find the right match. These relatives might have been cousins or even farther away, but they weren't close like brothers or sisters. Nevertheless, this was a huge hint. After that, the experts and the police began creating family trees. They looked at old documents, birth records, marriage certificates, and even social media posts. They spent many months carefully checking each branch of the family tree, looking at who lived where and when. Finally, after a lot of hard work, they found one man who fit. This man was about 62 years old in 2024. Back in 1996, he was 34 years old, and he lived just 2 miles away from the Ramsey house. He had a job working for a catering company, and this company did parties in the Ramsey neighborhood, including one just a few doors away from the Ramsey home around Christmas. Now that this long-hidden suspect has finally been uncovered, what new evidence has come to light to connect him to that tragic night? Let's learn more. A hidden suspect finally found. This man had never been a suspect before. Nobody had ever thought about him. He had a few crimes on his record, like burglary and fraud, but they were not violent crimes. No one thought he was dangerous to kids. That's why the police had never talked to him. After the assassination, he moved away from Colorado. He went to Arizona, then Nevada, then Texas, and later to Washington State. He kept moving from place to place, maybe trying to start over or maybe to hide. The police secretly collected his DNA by taking things he had thrown away, like a coffee cup or a cigarette butt. They tested this DNA, and it matched the DNA from JonBenet's clothes exactly. The chance that it belonged to someone else was so tiny it was almost impossible. When they searched his home and a storage unit, they found more clues. They found an old jacket from the 90s that had fibers matching fibers from JonBenet's clothes. They also looked again at the ransom note. With new software, they found patterns in the handwriting that matched samples from this man's old job records. Right now, no one knows if he really knew the Ramsey family personally. Maybe he just learned about them from working nearby or saw them at a party. He might have known they were leaving town after Christmas and thought he could sneak in. Before they officially arrest him, the personnel cross-checking facts are working really hard today to make sure they have all the proof they need. After years of waiting and sadness, this news gives JonBenet's family new hope and a little light. How did the shocking events on that cold December morning truly unfold, and why did the investigation fall apart so badly? Keep watching for more. The day everything changed, JonBenet's death and the broken investigation. JonBenet Ramsey's tragic death on December 26, 1996, is a day that shocked the world and altered everything for her family. Her mother, Patsy Ramsey, discovered a lengthy, peculiar handwritten ransom note on the stairs of their large home on a chilly morning shortly after Christmas. Unlike most ransom notes, this one was lengthy, roughly 2.5 pages, and extremely detailed. It requested precisely $118,000, which was nearly equal to John Ramsey's annual work bonus. This immediately gave the impression that it was highly suspicious. When Patsy read the note, she realized that JonBenet was missing. She quickly called the police, feeling scared and not knowing what else to do. The police came to the house to check everything, but they first thought it was just a kidnapping, so they did not treat the whole house like a crime scene. Instead, they only blocked off JonBenet's bedroom. Because of this, family members and friends were walking around everywhere in the house, which could have messed up important evidence. Later that same day, John Ramsey, JonBenet's father, found her body in the basement of their house. She was only 6 years old. Her little body showed she had been hurt badly. Her skull was fractured, and she had been strangled using a homemade garrote made from a cord and part of a paintbrush that belonged to her mother. Even though it looked like there had been a sexual maltreatment, experts did not find strong evidence to say there was actual rape. The official cause of her death was asphyxia by strangulation, along with a serious head injury, showing clearly that someone had assassinated her. JonBenet was later buried at St. James Episcopal Cemetery in Marietta, Georgia. She was laid to rest beside her half-sister Elizabeth, who had sadly died in a car accident 4 years before. It was a heartbreaking moment for the family to lose 2 daughters. The investigation into JonBenet's death was full of mistakes. Another big mistake was letting John and Patsy be interviewed together instead of separately. Usually, people are questioned alone so they can't influence each other's answers. Moving JonBenet's body also ruined important evidence that could have helped figure out how she died and what really happened in that basement. The ransom note itself was another strange piece of the puzzle. It was unusually long and was written on paper found inside the house, making it seem like someone inside might have written it. Experts who study writing styles could not agree on who wrote it. There were also fibers from the duct tape used on JonBenet's body that matched fibers from Patsy's clothes, raising even more questions. There was no sign that anyone had broken into the house, and no kidnapper ever called or tried to collect the money. In 1998, DNA tests showed that the DNA found on JonBenet's clothes did not match anyone in the family. This finding caused even more confusion. Even though the grand jury wanted to charge the parents, the district attorney decided there was not enough evidence to do so, and no one was officially blamed. In 2003, new DNA tests found that an unknown male's DNA was on JonBenet's clothes. This person did not match any family members or known suspects. The police later apologized to the parents and cleared them in the eyes of the law. The Ramsey family even filed lawsuits against different news outlets that had blamed them, trying to fix their public image. Some believe that if the crime scene had been fully secured and modern DNA tests used earlier, the true killer might have been identified and the mystery of JonBenet's death finally solved. Beyond all the theories and questions about what really happened that night, who was JonBenet Ramsey before this tragedy? Let's find out. Burke's long silence and JonBenet's bright spirit. People talked about this case, shared ideas, and thought about who the real killer was for almost 30 years. Burke Ramsey, JonBenet's older brother, who was just 9 years old when she passed away, was also a thought. He refused to speak to the media and remained silent for a very long time. Some people started making theories about him, even though he was never charged or officially suspected. Recently, after 28 years, Burke finally decided to talk. Now in his late 30s, he shared how losing his sister changed his whole life. He explained JonBenet as a happy, satisfied girl who brought laughter and light into their home. He also talked about how hard it was to grow up with people always making up stories and blaming his family. He explained the experience of bearing that sadness and how it controls his present self. Burke criticized how the investigation was handled and also stated that his parents should not have been interviewed together. He said he still doesn't understand the ransom note and finds it frustrating that no one knows for sure who wrote it. He supports using new DNA technology to look at every piece of evidence again, hoping to find the real answers. He shared that he wants justice for his sister, not just to protect himself, but to bring peace to his family and help everyone finally know the truth. He also defended his parents, saying they were under huge emotional stress and did not know how to handle the terrible situation. He said they were suffering from losing their daughter and being accused at the same time. Burke's words have made many people interested in the case again. Right now, the police, lawyers, and fans of true crime are talking about his interview and making up ideas about the chances of new clues that might help solve the case. Although it doesn't solve the case, his claims give a personal and deep idea to a story that has long been full of crazy ideas and gossip. At the core of this tragic story is JonBenet's own happy life. Before all of this, she was a lively little girl with a big smile. She loved to perform and compete in child beauty pageants, winning multiple titles before she was 7 years old. She enjoyed showcasing her charm on stage, dressing up in elegant gowns, and dressing up in glittering costumes. She attended Boulder's High Peaks Elementary School for kindergarten, where she was just another inquisitive, gregarious kid. Her parents encouraged her interests, and she looked up to her older brother. Her father, John, put a lot of effort into providing her with a comfortable life, and her mother, Patsy, encouraged her love of pageants. JonBenet lived in a big house in a nice area, surrounded by love and comfort. She was famous for having bouncy blonde hair and a smile that could light up a room. For everyone who followed the story, all of this only serves to deepen the sadness of her loss and the mystery surrounding her death. Even after so many years, people still remember JonBenet for the happy, intelligent young girl she was when she was alive, in addition to the tragic way she passed away. After all the years of pain and waiting, what clues and evidence have really been found to help explain what happened to JonBenet? Stay tuned for more. The puzzling clues and unanswered questions in JonBenet's case. On the day JonBenet was found, her father, Mr. Ramsey, took another look around the basement by himself. He confirmed seeing a broken window, which was slightly open, and observed the suitcase under it. Although the suitcase belonged to the family, he mentioned it wasn't usually stored in that spot. When JonBenet was found dead, there was a lot of strange and confusing evidence in the case.